bending room with the water damage. Now, as you can see, just like the other day, this has been a very persistent and long-lasting leak. It's been going on for quite a while. Now, these walls, you can see underneath we've got the block work, and this is perished quite badly. Let's have a look at the back of that. So yeah, we've got a bit of black mold. It's all pitted where all the plasterboard's been failing and just disappearing and just getting washed out. So that looks like that's on the joint. I can see there's dot and dabs. I'm not sure if it's coming out. Now look, back here. If I tap here, it feels hollow. Sounds hollow. Get here, there's a dab. And we can actually see the shape of the dab through the plasterboard. These walls haven't been plastered, they've been joint and taped. So that is the plasterboard just with paint over the top of it. And I think what's been happening here is the water's been getting into the dab and swelling coming through into the plasterboard and causing this shape to occur. And there's another one down the bottom, a bit of mottling, but it doesn't feel, it feels quite solid. Back here it's bouncing, here it's solid. So I've got some bonding, I've got some old bonding that I had in my garage. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to cut out a section of the perished board, get it back to a bit of board which is half decent, get some bonding in there and reaffirm all this plasterboard, and then we're probably going to set with a bit of PVA from where these dot and dabs have kind of bled through the surface. We're going to set from there, and there's same things happened on this side to there, and just feather it in. So only a small job, but you know, quite time consuming. So let's get some dust sheets down and start cutting this bit of board out. On the multi-tool again today, different blade on it this time. Okay, so look, we've got back this far already, and we can see the plasterboard is much better. There's hardly any water damage there. Although, look, now these were built, apparently the estate was built in 1985, but these houses were built a little bit after. So look, these are the old dot and dabs which have completely failed. Okay, so I'm quite happy we've got into some more stable plasterboard. You see it hasn't failed here at all, it's not perished. So this is the area that I'm going to fill up with this old bag of bonding that I found in my garage the other day. Just looking at this, it doesn't look very thick to me. That looks like that could be 9.5mm thick plasterboard that they've dot and dabbed here. I mean it should really, for walls, be 12.5 in depth. It's really quite thin. I know there's no plaster on it, but yeah, it looks like 9.5. It really does. So at the moment we've still got some bounce in here. What we're going to do is we're going to get some PVA in here, and we're going to get a brush and splash it all down in here, and we're going to force some bonding round here so it gets behind and re-adheres this plasterboard and turns it back solid. I need a good fix there. That's what we're going to do now. Okay, so PVA on a brush. So that fits just in there nice, and make sure we get the back of that board. Also, it's quite important we get this edge here because that can cause a crack. The dust is so dry, it can strip the moisture out of the plaster really quickly. So we're going to make sure we get PVA all across here. See where it's darkened down already? We now got some PVA in there. So I'm going to PVA all in this area, get it behind this board and everything, and then PVA from here to here. So here, if you look, we've removed the socket face there, and I've put a bit of this PVC tape over it because all the terminals are at the back and at the top, and we don't really want to drop any water in terminals and possibly get an electric shock or whatever. You know, water and electric, they don't really go together too well, not where health and safety is concerned. So you know, it's all done. Just put a strip across there, and I've just folded it around over here because the screws are still in there, and I don't know if you can see, yeah, just holds the screws in, stops them from getting lost. Also here, the paper is breached, that's gone back to the plasterboard. We're going to need to get some scrim over this. Okay, so we're working in quite a tight area here. I think all the PVAing is done. I just put it on with a hand brush. It's starting to dry out and starting to set in places. Now, this PVA is still quite wet. You can pretty much let that go until it's, you know, dry to the touch, and that'll still be fine. Especially going over this painted surface. It's quite a strange paint, to be honest with you. It feels quite waterproof, and taking note of the PVA, it is hanging around on there a little while, so we're not going to get much suction on this painted surface. And of course, remember, we need to PVA the painted surface because we need to actually physically glue that plaster to it. Plaster won't like sticking to it just by itself. It will quite possibly pop off. So I've not cut this bit of bonding stiff to start off with, only a small bit, because I want to, this gauge and trowel, really force it in and around and get right into this plasterboard, into this cavity, so that it re-adheres it as best we can. You can see it keeps disappearing in there. We know we're getting it in there. Like I say, knock this bit up quite a bit stiffer than you normally would, so we can do this. The bag's a little bit old, it's still in date, just, so I'm hoping this stuff's going to pick up quite quickly and start holding this together. And also, when we do knock up, we're going to have the dirty water from this for the next coat of bonding, which we're going to knock up wetter and use to fill the whole thing inside. Now, obviously, all this we don't need to be very tidy. Oh, the trick is getting it behind that existing board and really push it in there, you know? Give us a nice grip. And remember, it will stick to it because we managed to get the brush in there and we PVA'd all up inside and got the PVA on the back of the board as well. So there we go, look, I knocked up enough to force it in around the sides, and I had enough left over to get like a bit of a coat down the whole middle of it. Now notice with my trowel, I've just cut these diamond shapes in there to give it some key for the next coat. I've made sure it's all behind so they are quite deep. So we need to let this pick up a bit because we need the weight to come out of it. So there's not much we can do, we just have to wait for this to pick up, solid up a little bit so we can get another coat of bonding and bring it out flush. I've just layered that on because I didn't have the foresight to bring my hawk up here, so I was just putting it on with that as my hawk, and then with my gauge and trowel and just pushing it all in, and then just with my 20-inch carbon just gave it a quick flatten over. But that's fine as it is, not much more we can do about that right at this moment. Now there is other ways to do this sort of work. It's just that I had a bag of old bonding in my garage, so this is what I'm using on this. We could have got some spray foam in there. There's all sorts of different ways. We could have just cut it out and put a brand new bit of plasterboard in there and just skimmed it, but today this is what I had. I had some bonding, we're filling out, we're bonding it, we're doing it this way. If I had a bit of plasterboard, maybe I would have done it with plasterboard, but today this is how it's happening. Okay, so the paint has just turned up and he's been painting the ceilings. Where have you started? Upstairs?
There's been no painting done yet. I'm on the prep work.
Okay. All right, no painting done at all?
Only on the skirting.
So just tell us what you think about the plastering.
Yeah, it's wicked, mate.
Good. I know I've already asked you, but I wanted to get it on camera. No. We've not actually painted any yet, though.
No, just on the prep at the moment.
Okay. How do you know it's good then?
Well, I just run my hand over it and thought it was wicked.
Yeah, cool. Well, I'm glad about to get in here today because I'm working next door. And obviously you don't often get much chance to come and have a look at the jobs again. Cool beans. Are you going to actually do some painting today? Are you still prepping?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
The boss hasn't said anything yet.
Alright, no worries. I will let you crack on.
No worries.
Okay, so here we go. We have had a bit of waiting time. And look, that's setting now. It's gone off hard. Yeah, as I say, it was an old bag. It's just in date. But yeah, I definitely wanted this to pick right up before I attempted to put the thicker coat over the top to bring it out flush. Just because if you go with it too quick, there's a certain point where this won't be very stable at all and chance could fall out. So yeah, a bit of waiting around doing it in this way, but that's okay because it's given me a chance to catch up with the comments on the YouTube channel. I met we used dirty water on that previous gauge. It's sending this off like a rocket, so we won't be waiting around as much as we was the first time. Open our trowel up if it's big enough to get both sides. Tidy up there. There we go, we're all out. Nice and flush. Give that a few minutes. And be ready to set in no time. It's really picking up. I need to go and clean that bucket out right now. Okay, so we're back in the van. We're just going to wait for that to pick up before we can put any multi-finish over the top of it. It is picking up a lot quicker than that first lot. It was, like I say, it was an old bag, just in date. So I was expecting it to pick up a little bit quicker anyway. I knocked it up stiff and got it in there, and it probably took about half an hour probably for it to, really properly set, not just, go tacky or stiff, to properly set so I can get that second coat on there. So yeah, and I've used the dirty water with the mixing out bucket, and I washed the setting bucket, used all the dirty water to send off this second coat of bonding even quicker. And like I say, I could feel it going off in the bucket even in that short amount of time. Bonding in particular is very sensitive to dirty water. You need to be a little bit careful of that. If you push your luck too much, I mean, there's been occasions when you're a little bit more inexperienced, put dirty water in the bonding, gone in there, got hawk fall out, got it on the wall, and then gone back to your bucket, and then your spodle's stuck in there like a scalloper. It's gone off in the bucket, like it's been literally 2-3 minutes, and you can feel the heat of the reaction from it. So yeah, if you are putting dirty water in bonding in particular, it's very sensitive, at least can be. Hardwool, on the other hand, hangs around a lot longer, so dirty water in hardwool does help a lot, but bonding, just be careful. Okay, so here we go. Look, we're just about ready. Look, it's almost completely set. I've scraped again just to give it a little bit of key, just with my trowel, giving it some lines in there for the multi-finish. And at this point, look, I've just opened my trowel up a little bit, take off any potential lumps that might be sticking out in front. And all we need to do is get some scrims up around, re-scrim this bit in here, and just, you know, scrim all the edges up. And I'm probably going to back that scrim up with some staples again. The reason I'll be using staples is because we've got some dusty areas here, so scrim will have trouble sticking to this fresh bonding and to you know, this powder area. So yeah, staples are really going to help with keeping that scrim up there. Scrim, staples. This is really warm. It's like fresh bread. It's gone off so fast, the reaction, like what I was talking about earlier. You can feel the heat from it. Yeah. Okay, so all that's left now really is just knock up some multi-finish and get it on there. We're going to be using, again, the dirty water that we've been cooking up all day, straight from that first step, in the washing out bucket. Just keep knocking it back, and hopefully the dirty water that we've got going on now is going to send this multi-finish off really, really nice and quick, and we can get out of here. So there we go, we've just got a coat of multi over it and just giving it one quick flatten. I need to brush these edges in so they're a little bit more seamless. I've been using a 20-inch carbon steel trowel. Now you may notice there's some air bubbles appearing. That's coming from the bonding. Tiny little air pockets, because I knocked up the multi quite stiff. Little air pockets trapped, you know, in some of the grooves of the bonding, and because the bonding's so hot, it's heating up, it's expanding that air, so you can keep going over that and over that. Let's just show you with my trowel. It's never going to go away. Leave it alone, let it pick up, and we'll come back to them in a minute. Okay, so the edges are feathered in. All I've taken is my wet brush, give it a brush back like so, bring up the fats, and then get your trowel and just use that fat to feather out, get the smaller particles, little lump in it there, get the smaller particles just to thin out and feather off into a nice even line. So we haven't got a ridge there. And you can see how much we PVA'd. We PVA'd all the way back here. So there you go. Just let it pick up, no point in touching it. Right, we've been over this a few times in previous videos. Right, the reason we need to leave that plaster alone to pick up and not play with it is because it's wet, and the structure of the plaster has got different size granules in it. It's like a sharp sand or whatever, it's just a lot finer. So you've got big particles in there, you've got small particles in there, and you've got the gypsum slime and all that stuff going on in there. Now that needs to be evenly spaced out through the depth of the plaster, and if you keep playing with that plaster whilst it's wet, you're going to keep moving it about, and eventually what's going to happen is the bigger particles are going to start bumping into each other, and they're going to start burying deeper into the depth of the coat of the plaster. And what's going to happen is you're going to start bringing all those small particles up to the top, and it's going to go all ripply and puddingy because you've lost the structure of the plaster. You need to leave it alone. That plaster coat needs to go off with an average of big particle, small particle, big particle, small particle, just like how a brick wall works. You'll lose the strength if you keep playing with it and playing with it and playing with it. Leave it alone, let it pick up, then come back to it. And every time you come back, you're manipulating the surface, not the whole body, the whole depth, the whole coat of the plaster. So stop playing with it. Okay, I've just sponge floated this. Look at the texture it's brought up. It's just bringing up the very, very surface, knocking it back and giving us the slip coat that we need. So I set myself up to do this in the first place by knocking the plaster up quite thick and put it on quite thick in the first place, because I knew I wanted to knock back the very, very surface. It's like putting two coats on, but you're doing it at the same time with the same gear. And then when you sponge float it, that very top coat, that it would be a laid out coat, now this has been knocked back, and this is what we're going to use to put kind of like the second coat on, which is already on the wall. We've just knocked it back whilst it's on the wall. So I've just given it one pass with the 20-inch carbon steel trowel, and that's what it's done to it. It's starting to flatten up immediately. Unfortunately, this little bit here, I noticed just at this point, I didn't notice it before, but a little bit of this paper from the original plasterboard had ruptured away and had come separate from the actual body of the plasterboard. But luckily I had this little bit of gear here left, so with my trowel I cut it out, and I've had to fill it again, so we'll just keep our eye on that. I'm sure that will come out just fine. If I need to, I can knock up another little bit of gear, just wet it back a little bit and feed that in there. Well, unfortunately I just didn't see it, so I've had to cut that bit of board out, that bit of paper. So yeah, so let's, the sponge floats. So not only does this liven up the very, very top surface, it also works like a regular float, in the sense if you are floating or doing some render work, you know, you run your float over there and it gives it a buff up. Now this is why I use these thinner sponge floats, because that's what it does. The thicker ones, which with the coarser holes in it, probably just a little bit too spongy to really make that much of an effect to it. So yeah, these denser ones, and you don't even have to wash them out that much. I mean, they get clogged up, but they're still spongy, and you see there is a flatness there to it. So these ones with the denser foam, the thinner foam, are the ways to go if you want to achieve a nice quality finish on your multi, if you're doing like a one coat sponge float and knocking up that plaster thicker and stronger and putting it on thicker in the first place to allow you to get away with the battering you're going to give it with this thing. So there we go, we're pretty much all done now. So it's all changing colours. It's very hard to show through video what the plaster actually looks like when it's at this point. It's starting to brown off and different depths are changing colours at this moment. So you really need to wait until it's all dried out and paint it and have a look back at it then. That area there looks all funny different colours, looks like ripples but it's not. That's that area that I had to cut out because the paper on the original board had ruptured. But yeah, what I need to do is clean up my little bit of mess there, get the dust sheets out, and we are done today. Just a little patch up. Give this a little bit of a wash down with my wet brush. Get some clean water on it. It's quite dirty at the moment. So yeah, just have a little tidy up in there, and then we are done. Put the socket back on, essentially. Yeah, little job. Right, I've got to go and have a look at another job over in Windsor.